Welcome everyone to the second webinar series for using reports through LifeLoop to improve our programming. So I apologize for my voice. I'm getting over from COVID, so I sound a little bit rough right now. All right, just make sure that you stay muted. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And again, we'll try to go through all the questions. If we don't have the time to do that, I am creating a Q&A that we'll share on the newsletter next week, just to answer any questions you guys have. Also, hopefully you have an LEA mentor or a few LEAs with you watching this webinar, because there's going to be a lot of information on this particular webinar that is important for your LEAs to hear as well. If you don't have your LEA team with you, no problem. We will have the recording as well available to you next week, so you can do some trainings with your team as well. All right, so we will get started. So today we're going to talk about how charting attendance helps us turn that data into action. So again, how do we read the data from engagement charting and create a story to improve our engagement programs for our residents? So we're good. Last week or a couple of weeks ago, actually, we talked about standards, right? We talked about the importance of having standards in your calendar. And today we're going to talk about the charting piece. What does that mean for charting? So why does charting matter? So before I go through that, I would like for you or your LEAs to enter in the chat box, what is the biggest challenge you have when charting? Do you run into any challenges when you're trying to chart or charting accurately? So while you're entering that in the chat box, one of the reasons why we want to make sure that we are charting engagement is so we have accurate tracking. This is going to help us have engagement trends, right? To tell us if our residents like or don't like the activities, if there's a problem with the times where we're giving the activities, if it meets our residents' preferences. So again, it's going to help us elevate the services and programs that we are providing for our residents. Also making sure that we have that data integrity for decision making. So you as an LED, when you are making the calendar, you should be looking at the data for the last month and determine which activities we should keep on the calendar, which activities maybe we shouldn't do anymore, which activities we should elevate or maybe move the time. And so that data, having good data, is going to help you make those decisions. Making sure that we're following our standards as well. And again, that the calendar is person-centered, right? This is something that we are talking about a lot, person-centered, Montessori. So making sure that the calendar is for the residents and is not things that we feel like they like, but it's actually things that they are voicing that they would enjoy to participate in. Now, if we do not chart correctly, then we do have issues with that data because it will misrepresent the engagement. So if we do not chart that residents are coming to, let's say, yoga, but you actually do see every single week 10, 15 residents in yoga, when you as an LED is trying to make the next month's calendar and you see that yoga has 0 to very, very little attendance, right? The decision making that you're going to have there is to, let's just remove yoga because nobody comes. Also undermines the program success. Again, doesn't show us if something is successful or not. And we do have some risk of citation as well. All right, so thank you all for entering your answers on some of the challenges you have. So let me read through these really quick. And I know we're going to go into more detail on some of these. So time, I heard that also last Tuesday when we talked about this. So time for a lot of people is an issue. So we'll go into that a little bit more here in a minute. You have the ability to chart on the all residents and doesn't pull into the report. That's interesting. I didn't know that, Lindsay. I will follow up on that with LifeLoop and see why that is the case. Not seeing all the personal activities of resident visitors, okay? Being locked out of LifeLoop. Oh, for your evening stuff. Okay, Tiffany, we will follow up on that individually with you. They're getting kicked out when taking attendance. Chelsea has a similar issue, okay? Time to chart. So, yeah, so it seems like time and then some issues. All right, so some resins are not imported from Matrix. Heather, thank you so much for mentioning that because somebody also mentioned that on Tuesday. So if you guys are having issues with residents' accounts being accurate, that meaning they don't show up when they move in or they don't get deleted when they move out, please, please, please send me an email today, tomorrow, next week with a list of those residents. I would love to see that list and follow up with LifeLoop on that. All right. So how do we chart effectively? Time, right? That's one of the first things that you guys mentioned on there. So we need to make sure that we are documented immediately after the activity has happened. Okay, so that is why we have iPads at the campus for your LEIs to carry around. If they are rounding and inviting residents to activities and a residents decline the invitation, write it in there, just mark them as a decline. Take the iPad into the activity to lead the activity because hopefully we are putting the activity program, the descriptions, whatever the LEA is leading in LifeLoop. But also as the activity is ending, just chart right in and there which activities were present and which residents were not present at the activity. Now, for some LEAs, this works perfectly, and I think it will be a preferred method. But if you would like to say, I'm going to chart at noon and right before I leave because I have really good memory and I'm going to remember, if that works for you as well, do it. But just don't leave your shift the day without charting the engagement for that day. And also make sure that you do have some details on there. If you want to put some descriptions on the activity that happened, but then also pictures. So I don't know if you guys know this, but when you have the activity open on the iPad, you can also take a picture as the activity is happening. And so then you can tag the residents that are present during that activity, and that picture will go straight into the resident's profile. So this is great first because it doesn't take any space on your iPad's memory because it gets stored into LifeLoop. And the second reason why it's really good is because as an LED, when you go to your resident first meetings, you can show the family members all the pictures that resident was tagged into, right? We all have some difficult families that they think their loved one doesn't attend any activities, and you can say, oh, well, let me show you all these activities your mom or your dad have attended in the last month. So it's a great resource, again, quick for us to show that engagement with your family members. So when charting, we want to make sure that we are charting daily, okay, for daily participation in group and individual activities. And we'll go into more detail on this here in a little bit. Also, meaningful check-in visits. A lot of the times we spend times one-on-one with residents that are not on a one-on-one list. And that is totally okay, right? We want to make sure that we're connecting and build relationships and provide resources for our residents. But sometimes we don't take credit for that. So I am empowering you to take credit for that. So if you or your LEAs are spending 5, 10, 15 minutes in a resident's room, having a meaningful visit, chatting, providing them resources, right? Just checking on them. And if you're spending time there, take credit for that visit with them. Also, observations. So if you are seeing a resident do things on their own, make sure that we're charting that. Of course, one-on-one visits, we want to chart that, visitors, and personal independent activities. So let's go a little bit more in depth on this. So some best practices for charting. Again, you guys have the iPad to chart as the activity is happening, as you're inviting residents. Um, but then best practices is to assign your LEAs to a specific service line. If one day you do have, let's say, two LEAs working on Thursday, you can assign one to AL, one to health center, right? So just use this schedule to do that. The other great thing that you can do in Life Loop is also assign activities to an LEA. And this solves one of the problems I hear a lot from LEDs, that when you are looking at the charting, you can't tell who charted that activity, right? It doesn't tell you Jenny Carrillo charted on Mary on this day, right? It just says that somebody charted on Mary on that day. But if it was charted wrong, or you're just, seeing some trends, you don't know who to talk to, who's charting that activity. So you can assign, and I will show you here in a little bit, an activity to a person. So if I want Jenny to do yoga because I know she's amazing at exercise, I will assign that activity. Actually, it should be Zumba for Jenny, but I will assign Zumba for Jenny to lead, and then I know that she's the one charting that. This will also help you create assignment sheets right there in LifeLoop. Assignment sheets are great, but we know they're very time consuming if you're trying to do them by hand. So this will help you to make automatic assignment sheets for all your LEAs so they know what their job is that day. They don't have to ask you. They don't have to, run around with their head cut off. They know exactly what their job is that day. Again, making sure that we are doing documentation in a timely manner, but that you are setting those times to chart. So if you can chart as the activity is ending, go ahead. I think that's probably a best practice. But if not, if that's not the way that you like to do it, just make sure that you have blocks during the day to chart the activities that you led. And then from an LED perspective, make sure that you hold your team accountable for charting. So it is your responsibility as an LED to check at a minimum on a weekly basis that your LEAs are charting for all the activities and that there's no issues with how they're charting. So when talking about group activity charting, these are the activities that appear on your printed calendar. So we want to make sure that we chart on every resident that has attended the activity um, and whether they participated or they declined. So if I am rounding the campus and I invite verbally Mary and she says, no, I do not want to come, I do want to chart that as a decline. Now, if I invite her and she says, yes, I will be there, honey, but she does not show up, I should also chart her as a decline. If she does show up, I should chart her as an attended. Okay. So we want to make sure that we are charting those residents that do not show up after they got an invitation by us, because again, that gives us data of maybe an activity that is not popular for our residents. Maybe the time is not the right time for our residents. So charting decline is just as important as accepted. Now, do not chart decline if you did not verbally invite a resident to an activity, right? Because if no, you're going to have, I don't know, probably 50 residents decline if you're not touching base with those residents on a daily basis. There's no need for you to add a note on the reason why someone declined. If somebody declined, they decline. Unless you as an LED feel like there's value on having a reason why someone declined. And I have a couple of reasons here. One is maybe a family that is concerned about participation. Again, we do have some families that want their loved ones to be in an activity every single minute of the day, right? And we know that that is not possible. And maybe they're challenging with that. So that way, when you go to a resident first meeting with them and you say, yeah, your mom only attended about 5 activities, but declined, 15 activities. If you feel that information to say, these are the reasons why she declined, then go for it. But outside of that, and then also if participation is part of an intervention, like a fall intervention for that resident. So talk to your DHS. Again, if your DHS and you as an LED see value on charting a reason for decline, go for it. But outside of those two reasons, there's no need for us to do that. Now, there's also on Compass, and I'll show it to you here in a second, a life loop charting definitions that will go through all of this and other information. Again, as you are starting this or improving your charting abilities at your campus, it will be a great resource.
Daniela,
right.
you have a question.
Yeah. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you. So Keely said, what if they are resting? We don't have an option for that. We can't chart that they are sleeping. Yeah, so if you invited them and they said, yes, they'll be there, you can, and they were sleeping at the time, you can just mark them as decline. But if you went in there to invite them and they're sleeping, I mean, you didn't make contact, so you wouldn't chart that. Elizabeth said, how can we chart when a resident declines a one-on-one room visit? So you would chart it as a one-on-one, but then on the note, you would say decline on there. That is the only one. I know that came back on Tuesday as well, where you would have to add that little note. Good questions. All right, so now let's move to independent activity charting. And these are activities that the residents choose to do on their own. They're not part of their calendar, of your calendar that you're putting together every month. So again, how to chart this. I know a lot of everybody knows how to do this, but if you go into the resident's profile, you click on personal activity button on Life Loop, you will get these options that you're seeing here on the squares on your Life Loop to chart one of these options. Now, one thing that we've noticed is that some campuses have added options to the charting. So we want to make sure that we delete anything that is not these squares that you see on the screen. The reason for this is again, we need to make sure that we are all charting the same. So we have consistent charting across the campus, across the division, and across the company, right? Because if we, from home office, let's say, we're trying to see how our vitality programs are happening in a specific division or all of Trilogy, and I pull the report and I pull for exercise, but then, Mandy, instead of exercise, they're charting on their yoga and Zumba and, chair, whatever, then I am not going to see the data for that because I am just pulling exercise. So we all need to come to the agreement that after this webinar, starting tomorrow, we're all going to chart the same. So if you are an LED, I would highly encourage you to go into the personal activity settings and delete any option that is not the ones that you see on the screen right now. Now, when charting for independent activities, do not chart passive activities. Okay, so what that means is if you see a resident in their room with a TV on, but they're asleep in front of the TV, they're not watching TV. Okay, so let's not chart for that. Only if you see that resident engage with whatever that's happening. So if the resident's watching TV and they're laughing at whatever is happening, right, or they're kind of making a comment about what just happened, then that means again engagement, and we do want to chart that. Yes, so Alyssa, we're actually the one tool I'll show you here on Compass has this, so you guys can have that. Thank you, the other Alyssa, for taking a picture and put it on the chat. All right. Now, when talking about one-on-one charting, this is the list of residents that you have for one-on-ones in your office, where we're doing personal interactions with the residents. Again, this is not part of our group programming, but we do have a schedule for these residents. We also chart this under the personal activity button, and then you will have that one-on-one option under the activity name. You want to put the exact time when it happened, and again, put a description on here of what you did, because it's important that the one-on-one programming that we provide those residents that is personalized, is person-centered, right? So we should make sure that if a resident likes to read history books and, I don't know, listen to rap music, that those are the things that we're doing with them instead of listening to country music and reading the novels to them, right? And I will show you here in a little bit as well the one-on-one visit schedule that we have. I know a lot of you use it, so that wouldn't be anything new. All right, I see a lot of things going on in the chat, and I see some answers too. Where can we find the list of independent activities in Life Loop? I will show you guys that when I go into the Life Loops. Remind me, Jess, if I don't show it. Okay, I see that Alyssa is also answering. Thank you, Alyssa. All right, so now I want to move into another screen, and this is new, okay? So we're going to do this together, and the reason for this is because, again, we want to continue to improve the way that we chart and how we look at data. So I'm sure all of you have seen the stars in Life Loop when you are charting. Some campuses have been using it for a long time. Other campuses haven't, and that is totally okay because we never really rolled that piece of Life Loop. But this is something that we want to add now to charting. And the reason for that is because it's going to help us show the level of engagement of a resident. So for example, if I have Alyssa, if I invite Alyssa to artisans class and she attends, she's there, but she does not do anything. She just kind of sits there, watches us, doesn't really do the painting or whatever is that we're doing. She did attend, but she wasn't engaged, right? So when we are pulling the information, it is giving us somewhat of a skewed data because she attended, but was it really meaningful to her? Was it purposeful to her? Now, what if you have 5 residents that attend the activity and all of them are just kind of like, meh, this is whatever, I'm not really going to interact, right? I see Jenny laughing because I know this happens, right? But we keep that activity because we do see attendance, but unfortunately, we're not seeing the level of engagement. So if we would see that 10 residents are attending the activity, but they're not engaged, then that tells us that activity is not good and we should or change it, change the time, do something about it. So again, we want to use the star rating system to provide a consistent way to evaluate the success and quality of our activities, because this is going to give us feedback, to make sure that is easy to interpret. By using this system as well, we can identify trends and what residents enjoy and where we may need to adjust those things that we have on the calendar to improve the program. So we have 6 levels on here. And again, this will all be on a handout I'll show you here in a little bit. But if a resident comes to an activity and they're not engaged, this means a resident is kind of sitting on the side. They're not paying attention. They're just, maybe they're closing their eyes. Clearly, they're not engaged. They do not want to be there. We're going to mark that resident as 0 stars. Now, if they are there and maybe they're looking around, they're peeping to see what you're doing, but still, they're not doing much with it, that would be a 1 star for very low engagement. Now, 2 stars will be low engagement, and this is a resident that is there and they will respond or they will do something if you prompt them, right? If you are basically doing the things with them. So that would be a low engagement resident. 3 stars for moderately engaged. This is somebody that is a little bit more engaged. They're looking, they may be grabbing some of these things, right? They may be laughing if you say something funny. So you can tell that they are engaged, but still they're not super engaged. So that will be 3 stars. Highly engaged, again, is someone that is actively participating. They're painting, they may be answering some of the questions. And then 5 stars is someone that is your cheerleader, right? I mean, we all have those residents. They come over, hey, how can I help you set up? They're ready. They're telling residents to sit down so we can get started. They're almost leading the activity themselves, right? They're very, very engaged, answering every question, doing every step of the activity. So again, I understand this is new for a lot of us. So I'll show you a tool here in a little bit that you can print, provide to your LEAs to carry around if they need to as they get used to using this star system. So what does the data tell us is insights and trends, okay? And this is the reason why we want to make sure that we are starting to look at data. So here in a second, I'm going to pull into LifeLoop, and we're going to go into some reports regarding group resident activities, activity categories, and activity names. So let me that. Before I go into LifeLoop, I wanted to show you this really quick. So this is the tool I was telling you about for charting. If you type LifeLoop charting definitions right here on Compass, you will get this little handout, kind of explains what I just went over. These are all those independent activity options that you should have on LifeLoop. One-on-one charting, and again, that star rating charting. Again, you can print this, hand it to your LEA so they can carry around for easy viewing. And then this is the one-on-one visit schedule that I was talking about as well. I know a lot of you use it, having the resident's name, how many times a week we should be visiting them. And then this is a very awesome piece right here, because this is where we can write what that resident is interested on. So if I'm an LEA and I have to do one-on-one with Susie, I can read really quickly that she likes, country music and bird watching and talking about her family. So when I'm in her room, I can do those things instead of doing things that are not interested to her, and then she's not engaged in the one-on-one. All right, so now let's jump into LifeLoop. And I have some notes here, so I'll make sure I'm not forgetting to show you anything. So when you are in LifeLoop, the first thing I wanted to show you is how to assign staff members to an activity. Under your calendar tab, when you are creating a new activity, of course, you will fill everything out as normal, but right here where it says assign staff, that's where you can click that and your staff members will pop up and you just click on their name. Once you do that, then you will click create activity, and that activity will be assigned to them. Okay. As an LEA, they will get a notification when they access LifeLoop on the app saying, hey, you've been assigned this activity. Also, if they have notifications open for like text messages and things like that, which we don't encourage, but I know some people like it, they will get a notification, I believe is an hour before the activity starts, so they remember that that's what they're supposed to do. Now, if you really like this feature and you want to get started with this tomorrow, you can totally do that with your current activities. Right here, this is your edit button for the activities. You would just click on that and then just update it with the employee's name. And then you would click update activity and that will be done. So again, this is a really quick way to assign your LEAs a hallway or specific activities to create that assignment sheet. Also on the filter section right here, which right now, of course, I don't have anything, but you can filter by staff as well. So if you want to see, where should Alyssa be right now? Which activity is she supposed to be doing today? You can filter by their name, and all the activities Alyssa has been assigned will pop up on your screen. So that is another great tool right there. So now let's move to the report section right here on the side. And we're going to talk about how to read some of this reporting information. So you can pick whatever time range you want. So I'm going to keep last month. the mode, you're going to keep it on activities, and then you're going to select your campus. Stonegate was here nuts Tuesday, and he loved that we used him as a example. All right, so I'm just gonna pick their health center side for the calendar. You're gonna keep all of this the same. Make sure that you have calendar type all, stat type totals, and then details for table view. And then I'm gonna apply my filters. All right, and this is going to give us a list of all the activities that we had in the last month, the type of activities, right? So our standards, and then how many of these did we offer? So this campus offered 8 bingos last month, 60 residents in total attended, 239 declined, the mean, and I'll talk a little bit more of this here in a second. But let me show you how we read this. So when you are making next month calendar, you can use this information to improve your activities. So if you click on attended right here, the table will kind of shift a little bit and it will show you from lower attendance to higher attendance. So what this means is which are your least popular activities and which are your most popular activities. Okay, so as you're making your calendar, this will help you make some decisions to say, for example, in this case, for Baptist Church, had nobody attend and nobody declined either, right? So what is the problem with this activity? Is it that we are not even inviting people, right? Because nobody declined. And if we're inviting somebody and they say no or didn't show up, we should be charting decline. Or is it that no one truly is interested in this, right? Should we change this? Do we even have anybody that is Baptist in our campus? Is this something that we want to give to our residents? Mocktail Monday, right, has 0 attendance, 0 decline. So again, this will help you come up with some good reasons, to improve your calendar. Sing along. We offered it one time, 2 people attended, but 31 declined. That's a great stat right there. So that shows us that we invited 33 people to this activity and only 2 showed up, right? So that does seem to be a good activity for our residents. By looking at the numbers, no, it doesn't, right? Now, it could be because the time of the day is not a good time. It could be because they don't like the person that is leading the sing along. There could be a lot of root causes, but this right there is a flag to tell you that, hey, I should be looking at this. There's something wrong with this activity. Let's change the time. Let's change the leader. And if those things don't fix it, let's just take that activity out and let's put something else in place that a lot more residents would like to attend to. So again, this is a great tool to look at. And then if you do the same thing with decline, if you click on that, it will also shift the report again from the activities that were least declined to the activities that were the most declined. So for example, Minute to Win It. Wow, 265 people declined it in the last month and only 22 showed up. Again, this is not good, right? That's not good odds. That's not good percentages right there. So I would be looking at some of those activities. Now we'll look over here, these little red and green numbers. This is telling us which of these activities are the most or least popular related to other activities on your calendar. So for example, Bible class is 2.6 points less popular than other activities in this calendar, right? So again, this is helping us determine that this activity, we should be doing something about it. But family night bingo is 1.9 more popular than every other activity we have on the calendar. So hey, this activity is a go, and of course it's bingo, right? So this is a good activity for our residents or probably for our families, right? It was very well attended for our families. So again, this is giving us a lot of information on what activities we should keep or activities that we should look into. All right, I'm gonna keep moving along here. I don't see any questions because I want to make sure that we have enough time. So now I'm gonna move to the residents tab. And when you click on residents, you'll have a list of your residents. And here in the middle, under the activity section, you have a little graph visual. And what this is telling you is a quick glance at their activity engagement, okay? So you should be looking at your reports again at least once a week. But definitely, as you're making your calendar for next month, I would highly, highly encourage you to look at that report and again start making decisions on what activities are a hit and what activities are not really, right? But this, as you're looking every week to see which residents we should be looking at or paying a little bit more attention, is a really good tool. So what this is telling us is how the resident has been engaged in the programming, in the activities. So for example, I'm going to take Alvina here as an example. Looks like she had some activity engagement increases. She peaked here with some activities, but then we see a rapid decline, and then we see almost a flat line. That means that she was attending activities and then for some reason all of a sudden she stopped. So that's where we see that decline. And then now she's basically not attending anything. So flat lines anywhere, right, at the hospital or for activity charting is bad. No flatlining, okay? We don't like that. So if a resident is flatlining right here, means that we should be looking at them a little bit closer. So this will be a great tool again, as every week you're trying to see, okay, is there any residents that we're missing the mark with? Just come in here with your LEAs and talk, okay, looks like Charlotte is flatlining. What is going on with Charlotte? Have you guys seen a change on her? Are we checking on her? Are we actually going to her room and inviting her? Let's pull her preferences. What things does she like to do? Do we have those things on the calendar? Yes, we do. Perfect. Let's make sure that we invite her for those specific things that she likes. And if she's declining the invitations, chart that. But then what else can we do for Charlotte independently? Does she need to be on a one-on-one list? So again, this will be a great tool to identify who should be your one-on-one residents as well. Um, so again, I would highly encourage you to see, look at Donald Duck. I mean, I heard a lot about this guy. I want to go to Michigan just to meet him because I hear that he is just a hoot. I don't know if you guys can see his picture here, but he is a hoot. But look at his participation chart. Very, it's beautiful, healthy, right? This is a good one. Lots of peaks. He continues to improve. He continues to increase, engage more and more. Alyssa's saying he's a fun guy. So yeah, one day I'll have to go there. So this is the type of chart with Donald that we want to see, not these other ones that we see a lot of flatness or see this decrease like Doris. Okay. So again, this gives you um, a quick look at your residents. All right, and Jess, I believe you wanted to see how we chart personal activities, right? I'm trying to find that comment. I think that's what it was. Yes, independent activities. All right. So if in your resident tab, if you click on the resident that you're trying to do personal activities, right here on the top right, you'll see this says new personal activity. And right here, you would click on that and then you would pick whatever that thing was, right? So again, if they have a visitor, you can put that. You're more than welcome to enter who the visitor was if you feel like that's important. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Um, maybe that was the one-on-one that you guys did with a resident. Maybe you saw them not looking on the phone, talking on the phone. They were reading. Again, you can put as much or as little information on that, but that's where you would find that information. All right. Any questions so far before I go back to the PowerPoint on this? are almost done. I know we only have about 5 minutes, so I'll make sure I get you all out on time. Okay. And like I said, if there's any questions, maybe come later as you are starting to use this. Actually, the Stonegate LED yesterday, he emailed me right after the webinar. He had some questions, and we got on a call and went over it. So it was really nice. All right, Sierra says, do we need to knock on every door, even AL? Most of the time, it's LEDs to 110 residents. No, you do not have to knock on every resident's door every single day. You do not have to do that. Now, if you assign LEAs to different hallways, it's a lot easier to do that, right? Because you are rounding, you are making contact with those residents as you're walking around. Maybe you go into the dining room. There's an LED, and I don't know if she's here today, from Fritz Farm, that she announces in the dining room the activities that are going on right that morning, that afternoon. So she's hitting a lot of people, inviting a lot of people right in and there, instead of having to go into everybody's room. All right. So we talked about how to turn data into action from a group activity charting specifically today. So as you continue to work on this, I know for a lot of us, using data can be a little bit scary and it's new, but we want to make sure that we are adjusting our calendar to reflect those popular activities, and make sure that they're resident-centered activities. So again, use that first report that I showed you. What are the most attended activities? What are the most declined activities? What are the least popular activities in general? That will really help you start narrowing down what are the activities that your residents want to have on the calendar. Schedule activities during peak engagement times. Again, that report can help you determine that. Move stuff around. If you're like, my residents said that they want to do sing along, but nobody attends. Okay, change the time. Maybe the time that we have sing along is not a good time for your residents. So if it's in the morning, put it in the afternoon, and maybe you will see an incline on attendance. Or ask them, guys, you've been saying that you want to do choir, that you want to do sing along, but none of you are coming. What is the problem? Is it the person that is leading it? Is it the type of songs that we're doing, right? Just try to troubleshoot, find the root cause of that problem. Don't be afraid to introduce new activities to your residents. Your residents want to do all the fun things that we are doing out with our friends. So just bring those fresh ideas into the campus. You all know how much I like bingo. If you know me, I see some people laughing. If you know me, bingo is not my favorite, right? Bingo has its place in time, maybe once a month. But right now, bingo for millennials, who's I am a millennial, is very popular. Have you guys seen this rave bingo halls where they have like laser lights and they have a presenter in a shiny jacket? I mean, bingo is coming back up. If you don't know what I'm talking about, going to TikTok and find it. Indianapolis has one where I live. So again, bingo, whatever. But if we do something super crazy, like I want to go to that bingo, even though I don't like bingo, our residents would probably like something like that too. So add new activities, come up with fresh ideas on how to elevate those programs that your residents are doing on a monthly basis. And again, re-engage those residents that are declining participation. If a resident continues to say, no, I don't want to go, or they don't show up, you see those flat lines or decline in that little snapshot that I show you, just check on them. Those residents, probably we do want to check with them daily, every couple days, and see what's going on. There could be something medically going on with them, and a lot of the times we are the ones to identify that first and communicate that to the nurses, because we do have such close relationship with them. So make sure that you are analyzing why your activities are not popular. Are we not rounding? Are we not inviting? Troubleshoot with your LEAs on why the reason can be. And on the next module, so in a couple weeks, we're going to give you a troubleshooting tool that is going to be life-changing for you as an LEA and LED as you are trying to find root causes for some of these reporting challenges that you're seeing. All right, so I know I only have 1 minute, but the call to action from this module today is let's all come together and make sure that we are all charting the same. So again, download that charting tool that I showed you. Make sure that we're all charting the same so we could see the same trends along. For LEAs, make sure that you're charting daily participation accurately and on time. So don't leave your shift without charting. And if you didn't chart it, it didn't happen. That is as true for clinical as it is for us in life enrichment. Make sure to invite all the residents to group activities. Again, this does not mean that you have to knock on everybody's door, right? But as you're walking around, market the activities that you have to your residents and provide resources for residents that want to participate in independent activities. So residents like, I'm just not a social butterfly, but I would love to sew in my room or do puzzles or listen to podcasts. Let's find ways to bring those resources to them in their room. And then for LEDs, the call to action is to making sure TBV that we are charting accurately, that we are doing this. So check every week the reports. Use the live loop report to assess engagement and trends at a minimum monthly as you are creating your next month calendar. And again, adjust your calendar based on the data that you are seeing. All right, all. Thank you so much for your time today. We're 1 minute past, so I want to make sure everybody gets back to their daily routine. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me or your LES. And we will have this recording available next week to you in our newsletter. So if you need to use it with your LEAs, feel free to do so. Thank you all and happy calendar making. Bye-bye.